working for Hamas when they
Al
have
Jazeera are
those
using
vital-
journalists inside
when
Gaza
they
because,
when they
like
have-
all
It's a barrage. Al Jazeera is Hamas. UN is Hamas. You are Hamas. Sky News is Hamas. Everyone is Hamas.
The Hamas-run health ministry says at least 11 people are
Whiplash, dude. Look at that. Look at how different. Again, Ukraine is the victims here, okay? Palestinians, Ukrainians are the victims of this. The media covers it as such. Palestinians are the victims here as well. But when the media is covering Palestinian victimhood in the hands of America's most valuable ally, look at how different the dynamic is. What do you say about the claim that the journalist is Hamas? It's ridiculous. It's insane. And Israel lies all the time. And we should put a stop to it immediately. What can I say? Palestinians barely get a blip of the same coverage, the same humanizing coverage that Ukrainians experience. It's so insane.
of Israeli strikes. Tanks and warplanes bombarded parts of Gaza City overnight. Local officials report more than 100 people have been in the past 24 hours, including 31 people trying to get aid and 3 adults and 2 children who died from starvation. Foreign correspondent Marcus Moore is tracking the latest from London for us. Marcus, what do we know so far?
Hey, Diane, we know that there are the reports of the increased bombardment in Gaza City, and according to the health ministry, a number of victims remain under the rubble of collapsed buildings, and that at the moment there are areas that ambulances and rescuers cannot reach. And so it remains a dire situation there. And all indications are that Israel is preparing for that expanded military operation to occupy Gaza City. And this is a plan that sparked outrage and also concern about the impact it could have on the humanitarian situation in Gaza. And as you noted earlier, more people have died.
Yeah, mainstream media also always points out when Russia negotiates in bad faith, but we never get the same coverage about Israel. And like, there have been less opportunities for Russia to even behave in bad faith because there's just been less negotiation talks in this process. Israel has like actively lied more than 40 times. Hundreds of times in total, but like 40 official negotiations on the table, and they've it up every single time. They've done what Russia is doing right now to Donald Trump, dangling like a potential, while simultaneously having no interest in continuing with like a reasonable solution to this conflict. And they just keep lying over and over again. And our media also, literally, if they were covering Russia's actions as though Russia was like Israel, they would keep saying like, well, Russia wants it, but those pesky little Ukrainians constantly want sovereignty. Is really up. Which, by the way, if the State Department change in attitude holds, you will probably start seeing that. That's what I was trying to imply with the way that the New York Times is covering Ukrainian positions and how they're losing territory to a final Russian push right now. So maybe it won't be that far in the distance when you will hear the media offer cover to Russia dangling ceasefire as a carrot and pulling back, just like Israel does, and then have favorable coverage on that part and make Ukraine look like they are the spoiling party here.
While trying to get aid, while others have passed away from malnutrition. And there's also, Diane, been new condemnation over the deaths of 6 journalists after an Israeli airstrike. Well-known correspondent from Al Jazeera, Anas al-Sharif, was among those. Israel claimed that he was a Hamas.
Yeah. It's like, can you imagine anytime someone talks about like how unjustifiable Russia's invasion of Ukraine is, you just hear, don't you think Russia has a right to exist? Don't you think Russia has a right to exist? You're being Russophobic. You're being Russophobic. Wow, you hate Slavs. You know who else hated Slavs? Hitler. Why don't you think Russia has a right to exist?
The Al Jazeera network vehemently denying those allegations. And Diane, the United Nations has condemned what happened, calling it a violation of international law.
And Marcus, it seems hopes are growing that there could be a ceasefire back on the table soon. What are you watching for?
The thing is that's what tankies online say on a daily basis. Brother, you're out of your mind if you think that there is any like serious political movement in this country that is like that is so insignificant. Like, you're talking about 10 total people online, okay? That's it. In America, there are certainly a lot more people This is what I try to explain to people. Like, there is a lot of animosity, understandable animosity in the global South against the United States of America. So for many of those people, they see it as like, oh, this is the enemy of my enemy. Like they see, and this is incorrect, but they see Russia's actions as like the only country to violently push back against American influence and American incursion. That's the way they see it. That's the reason why you see so many other countries around the world, not in the Western world, okay, but outside of the Western world. That's why you see so many countries assume the pro-Palestine, pro-Russia position. That's real. There's a real position. They see Russia as like the tip of the spear, a country that is like offering military pushback to America in a somewhat successful manner. Of course, they do not see Ukrainians as being used and abused in this process, ironically enough, which is precisely the position that they've been in time and time again, for the record. Like, if you're from a country that's been over by Western Empire, then you should be perhaps even more supportive of the situation that Ukrainians have found themselves in currently. But ultimately, as far as like the Western world goes, the number of people that are pro-Russia are a handful, and they're so inconsequential that there's no reason to even bring attention to those people
on that front.
Yeah, so these discussions have continued throughout all of this, albeit much of the discussions have been back channel, but there are reports that the leader of Hamas will be in Cairo for talks with officials on a potential ceasefire. And right now it's unclear what, if any, progress has been made there. But certainly for many, the hope is that a ceasefire deal could be back on the table. But when you look at what's happening on the ground, Diane, it really does seem like any deal is quite far off.
All right, Marcus Moore, thank you.
Israel has defended 6 journalists in Gaza, claiming one was currently working with Hamas. The IDF says Al Jazeera journalist Anas al-Sharif was an active Hamas military wing operative, that he received a salary from the group, and that what they've presented publicly is only a small declassified portion of intelligence. 4 of al-Sharif's colleagues from Al Jazeera, as well as another independent journalist, were in the same strike in an attack widely condemned by organisations advocating for the freedom of the press. Well, we are joined now by Nadav Shoshani, a spokesperson for the IDF. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Shoshani. Why is the IDF journalists? The CPJ accuses Israel of directly targeting at least 20 journalists and media workers since October the 7th. The latest, as we've just heard, an entire Al Jazeera crew with the weekend.
Fred, thank you for having me, Jen. First of all, I want to say the IDF does not target journalists. In this strike from 2 days ago, the IDF targeted a Hamas terrorist, an active Hamas terrorist. His position had a few positions in the Hamas terror organization, but he was part of their rocket brigade. He was a head of a cell in their rocket brigade, and that's who we target. And I think the question needs to be asked, why is Hamas and why is Al Jazeera having on their payroll working as journalists, and why are also functioning as journalists with press justice? I think that those are questions that need to be very alarming, and we need to ask them about what's going on in Gaza. But the IDF does not target journalists.
What evidence do you have that he was currently, and that word currently is important, working for Hamas?
Yeah, it's like, heads up, clinkers are out full force trying to create some bullshit that ties him to Hamas. I already know that he took a photo with the Politburo and Yahya Sinwar. That's what they're saying. Like, I know. Now the IDF is claiming that Anas al-Sharif was getting a paycheck from Hamas. Think about how stupid they assume you are a reporter. And as common sense tells you, Hamas doesn't send out paychecks. They have agents secretly meet employees in cafes and elsewhere and hand over envelopes that have a small percentage of what they're owed in cash, whether you're doing sanitation or anything else. Anas is maybe the most recognizable face in Gaza, and he was getting paid by Al Jazeera. Israel expects you to believe that he secretly sneaked away from his Al Jazeera job to meet an agent who would hand over a few shekels. The man was on air constantly. When did this happen? Anyway, when they think you're an idiot, and in many cases they are correct, but not in most. They're literally trying to say that in between the time frame when this dude was like 24/7 live, he was actually doing terrorism for Hamas, which is so crazy. Because if you ask Ahmed Fouad al-Khatib, another Palestinian collaborator of Israel, who works for the Atlantic Council, as you guys know, his collaboration with Hamas was actually when he was doing journalism. eventually they're going to arrive at that position where they're going to say, oh, he actually was doing Hamas activity by doing journalism, as in sending a drone overhead when to show Israeli positions when Israel told him not to. That's his job. His job is to cover the events that are going on. The playbook. They make up a lie. There's no evidence for it. Western journalists spread it like wildfire. Diplomats and politicians parrot it loudly. A narrative is built. The general public believes that the damage is done. Then they finally admit it never happened. This was on October 10th, 2023. Mohammed El-Kurd today says, and we fall for it every time without fail. Whether about Anas al-Sharif or Shireen Abu Akleh, Israelis don't spew their lies because they believe them. They do it because they know they can bait us into pointless debates that distract from the focal point, their crimes. Sure, that Telegram screenshot is fake, but that's not the point. Whether Anas celebrated October 7 is irrelevant. Why accept the premise that people can be murdered just for their views? Even if he handed out candy in celebration, nothing justifies killing him. I saw someone well-intentioned trying to rebut Hasbara by saying it doesn't really look like Anas in the picture with Sinwar. So what if it were him? What are you implying? Exactly. That's my point. Like, what are we doing? What is happening here? That it's like, oh, well, it's actually totally justifiable to kill a journalist because he took photos of Yahya Sinwar? What are you, insane? The ADL is mad that the president of the Foreign Press Association for saying he doesn't care that it's Hamas. Outrageous statement from FPA New York's Ian Williams equating Hamas, an officially designated terrorist organ that massacred to U.S. political parties. This dangerous normalization has no place in journalism. Keep chirping. Keep chirping. There is going to be more people that arrive at this position eventually. Photos can be doctored too? No, it's not. It's not a doctored photo. Hassan Asliya also had photos with Yahya Sinwar. What do you mean? They are the governing party in Gaza. It's like a journalist taking a photo with like Cory Booker or some shit, okay? What are you talking about? What are we talking about? That's it. That's it. There's no world where you go, sorry, you took a photo with Joe Biden. You get to be assassinated now. What? This is a ridiculous framing, okay? This is a ridiculous framing. What are we doing? Stop eating the propaganda dick, okay? It does not matter. It literally does not matter. Israel cannot kill someone because they don't like them. That is ridiculous. Israel can't kill someone for thought crimes. That is not allowed. That is insane. Why is it different? Why is it different when they're Palestinian? Why is it different? That's where the terrorism designation kicks in. It is a way to justify any amount of war crimes that you can do to a captive population of Palestinians. They're brown, they're terrorists, they're scary, they're Muslim, therefore they deserve to die. Stop arguing with idiots. It's not about arguing with idiots. It's about having arguments on idiots' terms. Yeah, I mean, I've said it from the first moment. A former Wall Street journalist shared a post saying just because a guy shot some rockets at Israelis with his followers as if it was verified despite no evidence. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm curious, though. What do you have to say about Islam having a part in the Quran about killing non-believers? Yes, dude, that's what I'm here to do, okay? As a Muslim, I'm secretly invested in this idea that you came up with. That's what Muslims are invested in doing. We don't entertain idiotic assessments about like the Talmud or whatever, and we correctly declare it anti-Semitic when people do it. But God forbid, it's open season when we come in here and they're like, oh no, what do you think? What do you think about Muslims wanting to kill non-believers, dude? Yeah, that's why I'm here. That's my primary purpose here. As a Muslim, I'm doing taqiyya and sheltering you from the truth about my religious perspectives, my religious belief. Jesus Christ. Palestine was at its most peaceful position when Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived there under the banner of the Islamic Caliphate that was controlled by the Ottoman Empire. What the f do you mean? If we're not stoning people for mixing fabrics, if we're not stoning people to death for mixing fabrics, I think it's a really idiotic assessment to assume that this is something that people are following on and not an idiotic, out of context, misunderstood sentiment. Exclusive. The White House plans to conduct a far-reaching review of Smithsonian Museum exhibitions, materials, and operations ahead of America's 250th anniversary to ensure the museums align with President Trump's interpretation of American history. Nice. Hell yeah.
at the time of his death, because the information that you have released to us dates back to 2019, the information that the IDF has released to the public. Why are you not able to release information that shows that he was currently working with Hamas?
Right. So there's many types of intelligence within Gaza. There's many types of intelligence that the IDF has about what's happening in Gaza. One of them, what we showed to the public, are papers that our forces were able to find in different locations within Gaza. Those are easy to declassify, relatively easy. There are more complex, more.
He's not even doing a good job. Why is this person on television? Why? It doesn't make any. Oh, God, I hate this shit so much. Still, 22 months in, still, we have to get an Israeli terrorist, a baby killer. We have to get an Israeli baby killer on TV to contextualize why this baby had to be killed. Okay? 22 months in, it's a genocide, and they're still doing this shit.
Delicate intelligence that we have to treat very carefully, because intelligence that you declassify, if you do it in an uncareful manner, you can't use it the next time. And it's important for us to save life and to have relevant, real-time intelligence. I don't think it's easy to find a specific person in the Gaza Strip, and we're able to do that. We're able to have intelligence on who's a terrorist and who's not, and it's important for us to keep that ability. That means that you can't declassify everything you have. But we know in real time, in the time of the strike, that he was an active terrorist in Hamas. He was, in addition to intelligence, we have of things he was doing and conducting. We also have intelligence of the fact that he was on a Hamas payroll while he was on an Al Jazeera payroll. And I remind you, Al Jazeera, journalists that support the terror organization Hamas, he was both. He was, most important.
Can I just stop you there? Just as a journalist, I would say that Al Jazeera do not say that they support terrorists Hamas. Al Jazeera is an international news organisation, and it certainly doesn't support any particular side.
Al Jazeera had reporters within Hamas, within Israel, on October 7th with Hamas. Al Jazeera are broadcasting Hamas propaganda. Al Jazeera are working for Hamas when they have.
Al Jazeera are using journalists inside Gaza because, like all.
It's a barrage. Al Jazeera is Hamas. UN is Hamas. You are Hamas. Sky News is Hamas. Everyone is Hamas.
The rest of the international media, Israel will not allow international journalists into Gaza.
Hamas uses Al Jazeera when they run those vile propaganda.
If Clarissa Ward came to Gaza, she would also be Hamas. Everybody's Hamas, baby. Excellent. Excellent technique. Undefeated.
And vile ceremonies with our hostages in the last ceremony. And I think Al Jazeera is far from condemning.
Yeah, remember when that was like a massive incident where they were like, I can't believe they're like releasing our hostages with fanfare, as opposed to the way we release their hostages in the dead of the night, quietly, as they are literally starving when we have all the food. That was really up. Remember when that was a point of contention?
Hamas, and Hamas is a terror organization. So if they're supporting Hamas, they're supporting terror, and we should call it by what it is. And yet, that is not the reason we conduct.
For the record, and I can't believe we're even having this conversation, I don't know if Anas al-Sharif actually celebrated October 7 or not. I don't believe anything that Israel says on principle, okay? But even if he were to have done so, you can't kill him. What are you talking about? What are we talking about? Like, what is that even? Like, what do you mean? Once again, if Israel's standards for combat were applied evenly against Israel, you could literally nuke Tel Aviv. You could nuke the entirety of Israel, and it would be considered a just act of war by Israel's standards, because Israel has mandatory conscription. Israel has numerous politicians that have actively fucking engaged in war crimes. You have former IDF, Israeli Occupying Force veterans. You have current Israeli Occupying Force soldiers. You have their wives and their children living in the same buildings as them. Okay? This is not a normal precedent to set. It is insane. That's it. That's it. That's like, there's no world where this is a normal standard. Okay? Because Israel's doing a genocide.
The strike. We conducted the strike against the Hamas terrorist who was in active duty in Hamas, receiving paycheck,
What was his active role within Hamas?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I mean, it's such a stupid argument, but like, what was he doing? Pointing a camera at the slain children that Israel was murdering? Was that his role in Hamas?
Well,
what was his active role within Hamas?
He had two roles. One of them was head of a cell in their rocket launching brigade in northern Gaza. He had more roles, also kind of related to information and things like that. But most importantly, he was part of their
Why
rocket
can't you
launching
release this
brigade
information in a
northern
declassified
Gaza.
fashion?
And I want to say something. That rocket launching brigade in northern Gaza also tries to fire rockets towards Israeli civilians. But also, and we've had casualties in northern Gaza. There's active fighting in northern Gaza. Sadly, we've had casualties in fight.
He's crazy, man. He was a real go-getter. How did he have time to do all of this? It's so wild. Keep making it up. He had a nuke. Huh? What would you say to that, huh? What if I were to tell you Anas al-Sharif had a nuclear weapon and he was going to press the button on the nuke? What now? Yeah, he was a rocket launcher specialist in northern Gaza, which of course he was killed in southern Gaza in a tent with other Al Jazeera journalists. I guess he was at two places at the same time. He was just able to move through the tunnel network. You want to nuke Israel? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's unacceptable. Israel's standards are unacceptable. Just a few more random instances where prominent Israeli media channels refer to Anas al-Sharif as a terrorist. Channel 12 News, the IDF eliminated Hamas terrorist who served as a senior Al Jazeera journalist. Israel Hayom, a hug from Sinwar and documents in Gaza. The IDF proves the eliminated journalist was a terrorist. Haaretz, the IDF, we've killed an Al Jazeera reporter in Gaza, served as a unit commander in Hamas. By the way, Haaretz also engaging in that atrocity. 2 terrorists in 1 photo. The incriminating footage of the journalist eliminated in Gaza from Channel 14. The Air Force attacked attentive journalists, among them a reporter that the IDF revealed to be a Hamas operative. Ma'ariv, journalist in service of Hamas. Al Jazeera's most well-known face in Gaza has been eliminated. Khan News, a journalist and a terrorist. The storm following the elimination of Anas al-Sharif. Q, man, your accents give me PTSD. Read my previous post, but went to a Psytrance event and hearing an Israeli say babies of terror in real life gave me chills. I hate your accent now because it brings that feeling back. Well, that's your fault for going to a Psytrance festival, which is now officially, it's like how the Nazis made the swastika their own and now no one can use the swastika as a symbol of peace. Israelis have owned Psytrance. If you listen to Psytrance, you're basically spiritually Israeli. Sorry. They took it. They took it for themselves. Yeah. Psytrance and Star of David are now stained with Israel's bloodshed. They literally used tanks to put the Star of David in the middle of the Gaza Strip in apartment complexes they took down with the Israeli Air Force. I-24 News, undercover as Al Jazeera journalists, 2 Hamas terrorists have been eliminated. Unsurprisingly, these are not some innocent media persons. Anas al-Sharif served as a unit commander in the terror organization, and there are many documents to prove it. Again, they just keep repeating over and over and over again. Why you got to be so hateful? I hate Nazis, man. I hate Nazis. I don't know why this is so hard for people to comprehend. I despise Nazis. I despise fascists, okay? Israel is a fascist Nazi country doing a Holocaust that is live streamed in real time. We get to see it every day, okay? That's it. It's that simple. Israel's a Nazi country, and its defenders are Nazis themselves. They are doing a Holocaust.
Fighting there in northern Gaza, and there are people, Hamas terrorists, fighting mortar shells from those rocket brigades against IDF, and it's very common practice in an area to go after people in the rocket brigade to make sure that we have freedom of movement, freedom of operation, and that those people are eliminated.
I'm just struggling to understand why you cannot release this information in a declassified fashion. You've released...
Because it's fake. Because they need time to doctor it, okay? They need time to doctor it, which I will never believe. I will literally... If Israel... I'm telling you right now, get mad at me if you want. If Israel showed me a photo of like Yahya Sinwar with an envelope of cash, handing it directly to Anas al-Sharif, I would still not believe it, okay? There's no way. There's no way. I'm not a moron, okay? I'm sorry. They've lied far too much for me to ever take anything that Israel says seriously. They've lied far too much while defending their genocidal actions, while defending their genocide. They are doing a genocide. If you are even a remotely reasonable person, you would look at this and go, okay, Q, suck my dick.
The information that you've released already is very old.
Again, there are specific types of intelligence that are very delicate and are very complex to declassify. We can speak of them in some sort of paraphrase. It's more complex than that to explain the process of declassifying intelligence. It's a long process, very complex, and you need to keep your sources of intelligence active and not harm them by taking out information from them in a way that would harm those sources from functioning.
As you know, the International Committee of Journalists, which is an independent non-profit organisation based in America that promotes press freedom worldwide, absolutely refutes the allegations that you're making about Anas al-Sharif, as did he when he's alive.
Based on what?
Based on their dealings with him, he also refuted your allegations whilst he was alive. Isn't the burden of proof on the IDF to prove this now?
Well, I think, first of all, we've put out documentation that we found in Gaza. We put out the original papers in Arabic that we found in Gaza proving he is a terrorist. And I don't think in any case in the world, anyone would take someone's word as just saying, hey, I'm not a terrorist. Okay, we believe you. And that's exactly what happened in this case. That's what's happening in this case. And I think it's just very easy and comfortable. And to be honest, you've been fair in this segment presenting him as we say that we claim he's a terrorist. But in many outlets, they don't even present IDF proof that we put. If you don't believe it, it's okay, but do your job and present it. And more than that,
do your job. Every person that is remotely connected to Israel, the Israeli state, has this insane attitude of arrogance and entitlement. What do you mean, do your job? I mean, if she was doing her job, she would have shut off this conversation. She would have just never had this conversation to begin with. I don't think it's a productive conversation to literally have a Nazi 4-star general at the age of 22 come on the broadcast and defend the Holocaust. Okay? It's ridiculous. Yeah, why aren't you just taking my Nazi-ass statements at face value? Why aren't you doing that?
Person who celebrated the death of civilians, I think it's worth mentioning. He's not this angel people are speaking about. He's a terrorist. And in addition to that, he has been promoting terror, supporting terror in his job as a journalist. I saw yesterday a picture of him celebrating the death of civilians on October 7th. I think that's important to be said. But more importantly than that, he was an active terrorist in Hamas, receiving salary from Hamas, hence a target in this war that Hamas started and is refusing to end.
Okay, and just to reiterate, this is something that he and his employer all denies. There were 7 other people killed in that attack, including another Al Jazeera correspondent, Mohammed, operators Ibrahim Zaher, Mohammed Dufal and Momen Aliwa. Is the IDF's position that all 5 of those journalists who were killed were also working for Hamas, or are they just collateral damage?
We're looking into further details of the incidents, and when we speak about and we classify someone as a terrorist, it's after a long, rigorous process. And after declassification, and that's what we've done. And about the additional people, we're still looking into the incident, and we'll hopefully be able to provide more information soon.
But clearly you must have understood that there was a risk if you're going to drop a bomb into a tent containing a load of journalists, that more than the one that you are trying to attack would perish.
Well, we conduct our operations, and as you see, he wasn't with his family, and we try and conduct our operations in a way that goes after terrorists in the most minimal way. I don't want to speak or before it's
but if
verified and declassified.
If you kill 8 people when you're aiming for one, is that the most minimal way? Killing 8 if you're aiming for one.
Of more combatants alongside him, but I don't want to speak about things before they're declassified and verified, and I want to be very responsible.
So you're saying that you're going to release information about some of these other people that were killed now?
I'm saying there's a process of declassification, of verification, and I want to be very responsible. And I'll just say that we're looking into further details of the additional people and further details of this strike.
Okay. You may also have seen a special report that we're running today by my colleague Stuart Ramsey about what is happening in the West Bank and the encirclement of towns like Sinjar. Can I ask, why is the IDF closing and opening gates to villages and towns like Sinjar randomly and without warning? What is the security protocol there? Because it's really disrupting locals' lives, making life incredibly difficult.
Well, I think, first of all, the IDF policy in Judea and Samaria is to make sure that in any clash between civilians, Jews to Palestinians, and other way, that we keep the safe and order, the order in place, that we keep civilians on both sides safe, that we prevent these types of clashes. That's been our policy.
Occupied Palestinian territory, also known as the West Bank. It's illegally occupied by you and your buddies, Judea and Samaria. Suck my dick. Here, Yuval Abraham reports on exactly the initiative being taken right now by the IDF. This, after October 7, Israel established a legitimization cell. Intelligence personnel searched for info to provide legitimization for our army's actions. The primary mission for the cell was to find Gaza journalists who could be portrayed in the media as Hamas operatives in disguise. Here's Yuval Abraham of 972 magazine in Israel. After October 7, a team called the Legitimization Cell was established in Amman. Intelligence personnel searched for information to provide legitimization for the army's actions in Gaza. Failed Hamas launches, use of human shields, exploitation of the civilian population, all the things you're familiar with. The Legitimization Cell was to find Gazan journalists who could be portrayed in the media as Hamas operatives in disguise. They actively went through journalists and searched. Entire days were invested in this matter. They found nothing. Why look for a journalist in disguise? As I understand it, because it provides media legitimization for the existing killing of journalists in general. After all, it's enough to present one hospital as Hamas headquarters, and you can paint the destruction of the entire healthcare system in the same light. One failed shot where Hamas hit civilians, and then who knows, maybe all civilian deaths are on Hamas. Sowing doubt as a method to justify atrocities. Identifying a journalist as an operative in disguise whitewashes the killing of all other journalists. The army killed 4 journalists in Gaza last night. It admitted that the target was Anas al-Sharif. In the past 2 years, al-Sharif has been doing systematic, courageous journalistic work, reporting to the entire world about the destruction of his people. This while most Israeli journalism has normalized mass murder, starvation, and destruction, betraying its profession. The betrayal continues now in the headlines reporting al-Sharif's death, fully adopting the IDF spokesperson's statement. The army presented documents claiming al-Sharif joined Hamas in 2013 when he was 17. A journalist who doesn't question the IDF spokesperson's statements at this stage, after countless lies, is simply failing in their duty. But even if we assume it's true, it doesn't matter. By that logic, the vast majority of journalists in Israel, if there's some documents showing that they served in the army or did reserve duty at some point, would be legitimate targets for elimination. His location was known for months. Why kill him now, on the eve of plans to conquer Gaza City? The answer is clear. I think Israel killed Anas al-Sharif simply because he was a journalist. The documents were the means. For the same reason, they actively searched for journalists who could be presented as Hamas operatives to provide legitimization for the killing of journalists in general. About 230 journalists we've killed in Gaza since October 7. And for the same reason, international media is prevented from entering Gaza, so that the crimes are less seen. This is Israeli journalist and Israeli investigative reporter Yuval Abraham for Plus 972 magazine, reporting on the legitimization cell. It's all bullshit. Everything Israel is saying is bullshit. The notion that he has taken photos with Hamas leaders is not a justification for his extrajudicial assassination. It's not a justification to even punch him in the face. What are you doing? Suck my dick. 10 toes down. Once again, these are the types of things that I feel like people took advantage of for the longest time. That you couldn't just like say that. You could be like, what do you mean? He took photos with Hamas. Of course he can be killed. No, that's not the truth. That's not the case. You can't do that. If someone were to entertain a role reversal in this regard and put Israel in the crosshairs, you would cry about how anti-Semitic this is. It's so stupid.
And specifically in some
You guys voted for Trump? Ha ha ha. Does it make it easier to fantasize about a thing that did not happen so that you can feel more comfortable in your position of not giving up about Palestinians? Like, even at this stage.
We can speak about every specific incident and looked at. Specifically in Sinjil, there were many, many incidents where people were hurling rocks to the main road by the village. Hence, a fence was built.
No, the liberals have lost their minds. I've been seeing like people post my statements on like Kamala Harris's lack of interest in like saying anything about Palestine and how that actually led to her losing the election. And liberals keep posting that over and over again without context to make it seem like I'm saying like Kamala Harris would do the same thing as far as like, you know, taking away a gay marriage or something. Like whenever Trump does some other shit, something that I'm like actively pushing back against, when they're not doing that, they're too busy trying to tarnish the reputation of someone who is actually anti-Trump because they're not, clearly. And they use my criticisms of Kamala Harris and the liberal the Democratic Party in general and their closeness to Trump's policies, which led them to lose against Donald Trump, as a way to say, oh, dude, look, see, the left is actually in the wrong still. I'm not in the wrong at all. It was actually totally valid. Totally valid that Kamala Harris hugged and kissed Republicans like Liz Cheney and presented herself as like a more moderate force to the more moderate but still right-wing force, and overall refused to do anything that would change the trajectory from our double suicide pact with Israel. It's so strange, dude. If at this point your hyper focus is still on like trying to prove to yourself and others around you that you weren't wrong and that this leftist political commentator on Twitch was actually wrong for correctly identifying many of the issues with the Kamala Harris campaign because he didn't want Donald Trump to win again. But in the aftermath of that victory for Trump, in the aftermath of all of that, when Trump is like doing a forcible fascist takeover of the American government, okay, and you're still worried about a left-wing Twitch streamer who was right all along, you're a moron. You're the reason. You are part of the reason why these guys get to do whatever the they want. It blows my goddamn mind that liberals are still trying to do that.
You know, those rocks have killed people driving in cars, caused car accidents that led to death and many injuries, and that's a threat on security. And generally speaking, our policy has been very clear. We do not limit movement as a goal to limit movement. We take steps to provide security. We take steps to...
Great argument. Yeah, but this is why single issue voting is dog water. Great argument. Kamala Harris literally lost partially because her inability to address the violence that was unfolding in Gaza was emblematic of the Democratic Party's unwillingness to actually listen to the demands being made by its own base of support. She literally tied herself by the neck to an anchor like Joe Biden. It's been months since she took a fat L against a goddamn rapist felon who is a literal fascist, and a fascist that lost once, by the way. A fascist that was president once already and then lost. She took a fat L. Where has she been? Nowhere. Nowhere to be found. Just writing a book. You're so stupid. You will never actually be able to understand the argument that I'm presenting because you're just unable to hear what I'm saying. You just go, oops, sorry. Vote blue no matter who. Not understanding that that kind of rewarding of failure is how we got here to begin with. It's so crazy. Kamala Harris does not lose because of single issue voters, you moron. There is no analysis that points to that, for the record. That's so crazy. The idea that it's like you have to create this like false notion. There's even less evidence. There was at least a concerted effort in the aftermath of Hillary Clinton's defeat in 2016 to present Bernie Bros as the major reason why Donald Trump lost. Kamala Harris lost the popular vote too.
Deconflict when there's conflicts in the area, and we make sure that we do it with as little as possible limitations on the people from both sides in this region.
If you well know, as a result of the Oslo Accords, it divided up the West Bank into three areas: Area A, B, and C. Area A, these are areas governed by the Palestinian Authority and its security services. Israeli forces aren't meant to be in these areas. They have access to areas B and C. You must know this. Why are the IDF shutting down markets and
See, look at this active cope. But you guys voted, but you let Trump win. Virtually every single person here voted for Kamala Harris, you dumb. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, a Twitch streamer cannot change the trajectory of American politics if the Democratic Party is unable and unwilling to listen to the demands being made by its base of support. Kamala Harris pushed people to stay home. It is ultimately always going to be the fault of the party. Stop trying to defend the party. The party does not give a about you. Do you work for the DNC? Show me your pay stubs. Why the are you defending the DNC for free? What is wrong with you? Kamala Harris lost 7 swing states, dude. What are we talking about? What is this argument? It's so insane. It is so, like, I can't comprehend it. I can't understand it. These guys, these liberals, they fancy themselves to be more intelligent than the average Trump supporter. And yet here you are regurgitating idiotic arguments like you're a Trump supporter, but this time for the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris could not fail. She could only be made to fail. Failed by who? The voters who didn't understand that she would be far better. It's like, no, that's her fault. It's her fault for not being able to present herself as a better alternative to a rapist fascist, brother. What are we talking about?
That allows settlers and Orthodox Jews that the signs on the street say are very clearly for Israelis not to enter under Israeli law.
Well, I think I should look into that incident and understand the details, but Hebron specifically...
We've been running footage of it all day.
Hebron, I've seen the piece. I haven't looked at all of it. I've seen the headline and skimmed through it. It was a very interesting piece. And Hebron specifically is a special area where Hebron, there's a place of religion that is important for Muslims and Jews, so it has a little bit of different standards in Hebron. It's not as simple as you described, and I'd be happy to look into that and check and give explanations to anything happening there. Hebron,
but it's clear the IDF shouldn't be in Areas A, should it?
Hebron specifically is different. Hebron is a place that has a place that is sacred for Jews and both.
Indeed, but under the Oslo Accords, it's classified as Area A.
Yeah, but the situation on the ground and also the agreements and the way that it is, there's security arrangements to make sure that Jews and Muslims can carry out their religion at the same time. It's a much more complex place with security arrangements that are designated specifically and out of the ordinary for this situation where there's a holy place that is both holy for Jews and for Muslims.
Okay, we will leave it there. Nadav Shoshani, thank you very much for joining us.